Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Mile 22. This movie tells the story of an elite CIA team that is tasked with smuggling a mysterious police officer with sensitive information out of Indonesia. With the help of high-tech communications expert and his team, they must outrun local military, police, and gang leaders to complete their mission. Will they be able to complete the mission with the mysterious police officer? Let's find out in Mile 22.
Pray.
Mile 22 begins by showing a group of CIA secret agents codenamed Overwatch, led by a man named James Silva. They were ordered to infiltrate the safe house of the Russian Federal Security Service in the United States. Under the tutelage of James Bishop, who monitors the team's situation and movements from elsewhere, Overwatch's mission is to find and destroy a shipment of cesium before the highly toxic substance can be used as a weapon to kill thousands of people. Besides consisting of a group of highly trained secret agents, Overwatch under Bishop's command is also equipped with state-of-the-art technology equipment to support the success of every mission they carry out. Silva and his team finally arrived at the scene, where Silva was tasked with monitoring the situation and keeping watch outside the house, while two members of his team, including a woman named Alice, pretended to ask the residents of the safe house address. Alice and her colleagues managed to paralyze several people in the living room. Then the other members of the Overwatch team followed in there and carried out their mission to find hard drives. Not long after, a sudden attack from the people hiding in the house managed to injure Alice and kill her comrade. Because the people who were there had weapons, Bishop gave Overwatch permission to use weapons and kill them. One of the house residents, a young Russian named Anatol Kuragin, then activates a trap, planning to burn down the house and kill the intruders. However, Kuragin fell out of the window during a massive explosion and failed to secure the cesium. Silva, who was outside the house, immediately executed Kuragin even though the young man had begged. All the Overwatch team members who were in the house managed to escape, and they rushed away from there. Silva only learned through the news broadcast on television that Kuragin, the young man he killed, was only 18 years old. Silva had mixed feelings after knowing this. However, Silva simply carried out orders from his superior and completed his mission. 16 months later, Silva and his team are back on a mission to find the cesium that had disappeared from the previous mission. In the safe house, his team only found a few chests containing weapons and fake paintings. According to information obtained from reliable sources, Overwatch managed to track down the presence of cesium in Indokar. Silva and his team then went to the United States Embassy in the capital and explained how dangerous cesium is that can threaten the safety of many people. So it is very important for them to find cesium as soon as possible before it falls into the hands of people with bad intentions. Meanwhile, a man appears to be approaching the gate of the United States Embassy while showing a hard drive. The man, who identified himself as Li Noor, told the guards that the drive contained information about several locations of the cesium that Silva and his team were looking for. Noor is immediately brought in by the guards and placed in the interrogation room, while Silva and his team conduct a brief investigation of Noor, who finds out that he is an ordinary police officer, has no family, relatives, or close friends, and has no criminal record. Even so, Silva still has suspicions about the man, because he just appeared and claimed that he knew where the cesium is. Because the drive that Noor brought has a security password, Alice tries to get the password by interrogating Noor. But Noor remains adamant in his stance that he will only reveal his password if Silva and his team are willing to take him safely away from Indokar. Not only are the drives protected by a password known only to Noor, the drives are also designed to self-destruct once every 1 minute, during which they only have 8 hours before they fully auto-destruct. To convince Silva and his team, Noor then tells one of the locations where the cesium is hidden in a fake painting they found in Kuragin's safe house. Noor was telling the truth, and they did find cesium in the fake painting. To make sure Noor is also telling the truth about the rest of the information, they also ask Noor to do a lie test with state-of-the-art equipment, all of which show that Noor is telling the truth. Noor said that he only wanted to go abroad because he felt uncomfortable living in Indokar. Meanwhile elsewhere, the Deputy Foreign Minister and head of the Indokar State Intelligence Agency, Axel, visited the United States Embassy and asked Silva to hand over Noor to them, without revealing the reasons in detail. However, Silva immediately realized that Noor must not be an ordinary person, because two important state officials had even bothered to go to the embassy office themselves to take him away. Axel only asserts that Noor is a corrupt cop, and it would be very dangerous if they took him away from Indokar. On the other hand, Noor, who is about to undergo a medical test in the medical room, is suddenly attacked by Axel's henchmen who infiltrated the United States Embassy. Even though his hands are handcuffed, Noor can easily overpower Axel's henchmen. One of the Overwatch team members, a woman named Sam, and Alice, then rushed to the medical room when they learned that an attack had occurred there. However, how surprised they were when they found out that Noor could overthrow his attackers. Shocked at Noor's combat prowess, Silva and his team learn that Noor used to be in Indokar Special Forces. Silva decided to contact Bishop and his team and ask them to come to Indokar. Silva has apparently agreed to take Noor overseas in exchange for a hard drive password that will reveal all the locations of cesium's presence around the world. Bishop then explained to his team that at this time, Overwatch would take Li Noor by car from the United States Embassy to the location of the plane that would fly Noor to the United States, where the distance between the two locations is 22 miles. With advanced technology and the ability of his very professional team members, Bishop and Silva are again working together on a mission to find cesium. On the way, Noor reveals to Silva that he became a wanted fugitive by the government because he tried to fight against the corrupt government of Indokar who had killed his family. Meanwhile, Axel has ordered and directly led a team of the Indokar State Intelligence Agency to intercept Silva and his team in their attempt to bring Noor out of the country. Bishop's surveillance feed blacks out, then comes on again. During the blackout, Axel's men place bombs on the car, which explodes. When Silva and his team fend off the attacks of Axel's men, Sam is seriously injured in the explosion. Sam then asks Silva to leave immediately and continue the mission, while she would withstand the attacks of Axel's men. Silva then gives Sam 2 grenades and leaves her, letting her suicide attack the remaining henchmen. Silva, Noor, Alice, and an agent named William rush to continue their journey. Losing many of his team members, Silva then points his gun at Noor, urging him to reveal the password, but Noor still refuses to give it. Knowing that Silva and his team are short on weapons and ammunition and that their safety is in danger, Bishop then directs them to a restaurant owned by one of the undercover agents, which has ample supplies of weapons and ammunition to fight Axel and his henchmen. While Alice and William are preparing the weapons and ammunition they need, Silva sees Axel outside the restaurant with his men who have surrounded the place. Regardless of Bishop's prohibition on acting impulsively, Silva instead walked casually towards Axel, who told him to hand Noor to him, which of course was immediately rejected by Silva. When returning to the restaurant, Silva brushes past 2 girls and realizes that there is a grenade in the restaurant. Silva tackles civilians before it explodes. When the dust clears, William is severely wounded, and Silva is attacked by the girls. When Alice helps William to the car, Noor suddenly arrives and helps Silva kill the 2 girls. They immediately rushed away from there while avoiding the attacks of Axel and his henchmen, who were still trying to stop their escape. Due to an incident that damaged their car, Bishop then directed Silva and his team to an apartment building for shelter. Upon arrival, William, who was seriously injured, could no longer walk and ordered his partners to immediately enter the apartment building and hide, while he would muster the last of his strength to block Axel's men. Not long after, Axel's men arrive there and attack them, where William is finally shot dead by Axel. On the other hand, Silva, Alice, and Noor manage to enter the apartment building, where they are directed by Bishop to the parking area on the back side of the building. Silva and his team again have to face an attack from Axel's men, which accidentally causes Alice to be separated from Silva and Noor because she is about to save a little girl. Not wanting to lose any more of his team members, Silva then asks Bishop to turn off the lights in the apartment building and removes the handcuffs on Noor's hands, telling the man to help him save Alice. Noor agrees, and they then split up to fight Axel and his men. Meanwhile, Alice, who is in the room, had to deal with one of Axel's big and tall men. Even though she had slashed the man's neck with shards of glass, Alice still had a hard time fighting him alone. On the other hand, Silva and Noor, who managed to defeat Axel's henchmen, then met the little girl who was saved by Alice, and then brought the girl to Alice just when she almost died from the attack if Noor didn't come just in time to save her by shooting the man, killing him. On the way to the airstrip, the remaining team members confronted Axel halfway. Annoyed, Silva then orders Overwatch to destroy his car with a drone attack. When he finally arrived at the airstrip, Li Noor kept his promise by revealing the password, and after Bishop's team entered the password, they got information about the location of cesium hidden around the world. But after that, Bishop and his team were surprised by their server suddenly crashing and showing Kuragan's face. It turns out that the mission to find cesium in Indokar is just a camouflage for the real mission, namely destroying Overwatch, where the mission was initiated by Kuragan's mother, who is none other than a high-ranking official in the Russian government. The woman has ambitions to avenge the death of her son, who was executed by Silva and his team. Therefore, Kuragan's mother hires Li Noor, a triple agent who works for the Russian government. The woman tells Noor to give Alice the wrong information about cesium, so that Silva and his team will believe him. Silva, who doesn't know that his mission is only engineered to destroy his team, then orders Alice to keep an eye on Noor on the plane, while he will head to where Bishop and his team are to pick them up. Silva looks surprised when Noor mentions Bishop's codename, namely Mother, which indicates that the man already knows everything about Overwatch. Elsewhere, Bishop and his team are suddenly attacked by armed forces from Kuragan's mother. The entire team is shot except for Bishop, who barely escapes and rests outside. As the plane takes off, Alice notices that one of the guards' gun has disappeared and realizes that Noor is not what they thought he was. The woman's fate is unknown after the gunshots were heard. Since Silva was the one who executed Kuragan's mother requested that Silva be kept alive so that he could feel the pain and loneliness when abandoned by those closest to him, as she experienced when she lost her beloved son Kuragan. Silva, who belatedly realizes all of Noor's tricks and Kuragan's mother's plans, can only return home after losing all his team members. However, after all that had happened, Silva vowed to avenge their death on those who had slaughtered his comrades, and began by taking revenge on Noor. The film ends. An action film that is quite tense, but the storyline is not too detailed. Even so, one thing we can learn from this film is, don't act rashly, including killing other people, because maybe someone we kill is a close relative of the most influential person in a government of a superpower country who can do anything to avenge the deaths of their loved ones.